Ladies, gentlemen, and internet trolls, it is another Fan Fridays, the show where I give outsiders an inside look into the mind of an MLB All-Star. Who in the league would I like to hit a homer off most? Which pitcher? Can you guess the answer? I bet you can guess the answer. Stick around. If you can't guess it, I'll share it. Coming right up. Question number 1 on the day. If MLB took a game to another city like they have done with the London series, what city would I want to play in and why? Tokyo. No question. I've played in Tokyo before. Obviously, they have baseball over there. But the fans in Tokyo, the Japanese culture, they love baseball. They're super passionate. The games are electric over there. They have bands playing and people chanting. It is awesome. If you ever get a chance to go to a game in Tokyo in the Tokyo Dome, do it. Definitely Tokyo. First answer, final answer. Next up, question number 2. How much does chemistry in the clubhouse contribute to results on the field? This is a tough one. I've seen teams that aren't super close be really good. I've seen teams that are super close be really bad. I've seen teams that should be a lot better than they are never really take off for some reason. And I think those are the ones where chemistry is big. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's the glue that holds everything together. So when you go through a 4-game losing streak, having someone in the clubhouse that can energize people, that people buy into following and to getting hyped up and getting their mind off of the bad stuff or whatever, that's super important. When someone isn't doing well at the plate and they're down and people are like, man, I don't like that guy and he sucks at the plate and he comes in the dugout, well then that negative energy spreads. People kind of roll their eyes like, why is this guy playing today? Or, man, if you just would stop trying to do this or that, and then they're thinking negatively about that at bat that they didn't even have when they go to the field, or the pitcher is like, oh man, well I got to throw a perfect game today to have any chance to win because the offense can't hit, or the offense is like, man, we got to score 13 runs to have any chance because our pitchers suck right now. Like, that's never a good thing for a team. You can have the same results on the field. Like, the pitchers might actually not be good. They might be bad. But the hitters can be like, no, we got this. We're gonna help them out. We're gonna do this. We'll do whatever it takes to win. We'll play really good defense for them because we really like those guys. We want to help them out. That's a lot more conducive environment to win in. So chemistry definitely matters. There's teams, though, that have won that weren't super tight. So it's not the be-all, end-all, but it definitely matters. It's just really hard to quantify exactly how much. Let's see. Question number 3. What is your favorite food to eat after a lift? I don't necessarily have a favorite food to eat after a lift. I like fruit after a lift. Generally, I'm a little bit dehydrated after a lift, and something sweet and juicy sounds good. Plums, oranges, grapefruit, something like that. But I also have to get a lot of protein in as well. Generally something, again, that's not dry. A steak or salmon is pretty good. I don't know. I don't really have a specific food that I like to eat after a lift, so can't really give you a specific answer on that. Something that's a lot. I'm usually pretty hungry. Some rice and a lot of protein and fruit. Probably some veggies in there somewhere. That's good. But yeah, it's pretty much what every one of my meals is, though. Some carbs, lots of protein, and some fruit and some veggies. All right, questions from my fans at trevorbauer.com. Julian Abraham says, who has the best numbers against you in live at-bats at Driveline? This is a fantastic question and an answer that just pains me to no end. But Eric Downey, I would guess. We don't keep specific stats, but I got to imagine it's my boy Eric Downey. He's got a couple homers off me, and he's one of the first ones, if not the first one, that figured out that I talk a lot of crap, but if you talk crap back to me, it gets rid of the mind games, kind of. So I would say, I would call him a whatever. I would say he's a junior college nobody, or he's a, I don't even remember what all the chirps that I would say to him. And he would just stand in the box and be like, oh yeah, F you. Or like, just throw the pitch. And just get annoyed at me or yell at me or something. And then it was like, okay, this is good. And then he would be in the right mindset to go up there and hit. Whereas other guys, when I say something to him, they're like, oh, is he serious? I don't know. Why is he doing that to me? And then they get rattled, and then I just dominate him. So Eric Downey resisted the mind games, hit some homers off me, makes fun of me nonstop, calls me his son. It's great. It's one of my favorite interactions. But also, Eric, if you're watching, you still suck. Let's see. Next up, Hayden Paul says, when you were told you were going to the big leagues, how did you feel and how nervous were you? I got to admit, my first thought was, yeah, it's about time. I was young and didn't really, I don't know if I didn't really respect, or maybe I didn't really value being in the big leagues as much as I do now. I don't know exactly how to term it, but I was young, and so I thought that I deserved to be in the big leagues long before I was, and I wanted to be there, and I should be there, and so that was my thought. My first thought was, yeah, it's about time. And then how nervous was I? I wasn't nervous at all because in my head, I was 100% convinced that I belonged there and I should be there and I should have been there before. And so it wasn't this like big step up for me. It was like, yeah, this is what I should be doing. This is where I belong. Obviously, I came up and wasn't very good and went back down to the minor leagues and then had a really bad year in 2013 and then spent some of 2014 in the minor leagues and, bounced around and finally came up again. But that was my first thought when I got the news. Yeah, it's about time. And wasn't nervous about it at all. Okay, let's see, where are we at? Question number 6. What was your funniest baseball moment? Dennis Chappells. Thank you for the question, Dennis. My funniest baseball moment? I have so many of them, but man, it's hard to just pick one. It's hard to pick one. There's some minor league moments that are just hilarious. Some of the clubhouse pranks are so funny. There was a time Carlos Carrasco is a big prankster. So I was out in the dugout. It was a day game, and it was hot. It was in Cleveland, and I went and sit down on the dugout bench, kind of in the shade, and kind of took my hat off and was wiping my head, and all of a sudden a bunch of water dumped on my head. And I looked around, and there was no one around me. I was like, now what is the deal? Where'd this come from? And I look up at the ceiling, and there's a cup that's just upside down, clearly that had water in it that dumped on me. And there's a string that just goes all the way down to the other end of the dugout. And then sitting down by the bat rack is Carlos with the string. And so he waited for someone to sit under the cup. He rigged this whole thing up, and then he pulled the string, and this water dumped on my head. So that was one. Another one, one of my good ones is I try to, so every time someone has a water bottle in their back pocket, I try to discreetly unscrew the cap without them feeling it so that when they sit down, the water dumps out or something. So one day I got Clevenger, and I unscrewed it, and he didn't even notice. And then the water bottle was pretty much empty. And so I was like, he hasn't even noticed that it's unscrewed. And if he sits down, it's not going to spill on him. So I really have nothing to lose here. So I went and got a funnel and some red Gatorade. And I put the funnel this is all while it's in his back pocket. I put the funnel in the mouth of in the mouth of his water bottle, and I poured red Gatorade in, like 4 cups of red Gatorade in his pocket, into the bottle that he had. Didn't notice. So he goes and he sits down on the bench, and as soon as he sits down, obviously the water bottle starts to spill. So it dumps out on the bench, and then because it's sitting in it, there's a little indent, so all the red Gatorade dumped on the bench and then pooled right underneath his butt. So finally, after about probably 10 seconds, he realized that something was wet, so he kind of looks down, and he's sitting in a pool of red Gatorade, his white pants completely soaked in red. He doesn't know what happened. And I'm just sitting at the end of the dugout, like watching it, just trying not to laugh to give away who actually did it, but he obviously knew. So that was a good one. I got him pretty good. Let's see, what else do I got for you? Oh, Zach Plesac in Kansas City. God, Zach, you... I've never seen this before. I probably will never see it again. He's in Kansas City. It is hot as heck. It is humid and hot in Kansas City. And he's had a long inning, lots of deep counts. And so he calls time and starts walking towards the dugout. And we're like, uh-oh, he's hurt. He threw a pitch and like something's wrong. It's not good. And the training staff runs out there and Tito runs out there. And they're all like right by the third base line talking to him. And, James, our trainer, has his fanny pack and the towel. And so he hands Plesac the towel, and Plesac like dries off his arm and then gives the towel back and walks back to the mound. And we're all sitting in the dugout like, wait, what? Did he just call for a towel break? Is that even legal? And then no one was sure if it was legal or not. So the Kansas City manager came out after the inning and was like, is that even legal? And the umpires didn't know if it was legal because no one had ever seen it. So he just called for a towel break in the middle of the inning. And then we filled up his locker at home with just a bunch of towels. It was like packed up all the way with towels. So there's just little pranks like that go along. It's hard to remember all of them, but hopefully that gives you some good stories to laugh about. And last but not least, Robert Christ asks, which pitcher would you want to hit a home run off of most? Can you guess the answer to this one? If you didn't say Mike Clevenger, you're wrong. I would absolutely love to take Clev deep. Oh my God. I can't even imagine, because it'll never happen probably, but if in some fantasy world I was able to take Clevenger deep, oh my gosh, the amount of crap I would talk to him. I've spent more time than I care to admit thinking about this scenario and all the different things I would say. And I got to tell you, I have a laundry list of things that I would chirp him for. He'd probably have to delete his social media. I would just repost the highlight of it every single day, probably multiple times a day. I would make him delete his social media by just trolling him so much. I would make burner accounts so that he couldn't just block me. I'd just make infinite burner accounts. And then I would just tweet the video at him from like all 20 of my burner accounts and just flood his timeline of me just hitting the homer and bat flipping him. God, that would be amazing. Yeah, I fantasized about it. Mike Clevenger, that's the answer. If I ever take you deep, Clev, if you're watching this video, I'm going to get your ass. So don't let it happen. And that's all for today. That's a good note to finish on. I don't really want to leave that question behind because I enjoy thinking about it so much. But I actually have a question for all of you. And that question is electronic strike zone. Yes, no, and why? Why do you think it would be good? Why do you think it would be bad? Who would it help? Big debate. Let me know in the comments. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Anything else that you'd like to tell me? Leave those in the comments as well. Hit that little thumbs up button if you liked the video. If you'd like a shout out in a future episode of Fan Fridays, head on over to trevorbauer.com, sign up for my email list, and submit your question on the homepage. If you could tell some friends of yours about this channel, that would be great. I have a goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020, so you can help me along on my goal by letting people know this channel exists and subscribing yourself if you haven't already. So without further ado, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.